Welcome to the Community Safety Committee. It's another one rolls around. They seem to come around very quickly, don't they? So welcome everyone. Well, do we have any apologies for absence, please?
No,
we don't, do we? No. Okay. And any declarations of interest from anyone? No. So minutes of the previous meeting held on the 20th of March. Those of us are here, are we all happy with those?
Yeah.
Anything, I don't think there's anything to pick up on those, is there, that we need to worry about?
No.
Right, so we'll go straight into the first main item today, which is the Service Delivery Performance Report. Quite a detailed report and some interesting information in this. Andy, I think you're leading on this,
yes,
aren't
thank you.
So over to you,
Chair.
Andy.
Okay, so just a short background to this report. So service delivery involves the delivery of our key functions to the communities, and it's specifically around our prevention, protection and response activities. So the report this time concentrates on Q4 from last year, so the period from January to the end of March, but it also provides something of a year-end summary for lots of the metrics as well. So during Q4, we attended a total of 2,696 incidents. That constitutes a 1.6% increase on the same quarter last year, so Q4 24-25. And then in the year as a whole, we had a busy year last year. We attended 12,249 incidents, which was a 12.3% increase on 24-25. And in previous committees, we've spoken around the increase of incidents that we had, particularly during Q1 and Q2, where we had that heat wave, was very significant and has obviously led to that end of year figures. So that increase in incidents 25-26 has been driven by a 29.3% increase in fires, which again, that's largely attributable to those often what we call like P3, sort of not risk to human life fires that happened in Q1 and Q2. There's also been a 13.2% increase in special service calls, and that was heavily impacted by a significant increase in the number of times that the service has supported EMAS at incidents. And there's also been a 2.4% increase in false alarms. So figure 1 shows a monthly comparison of the average number of incidents in the last 3 completed years compared with the incidents we've attended in 25-26. And you can see from that figure that in every single month we were above that 3-year average. So very consistently across the 12-month incidents were above the average. So a breakdown of incidents by type attended in 25-26 can be seen in figure 2. So false alarms and special service calls averaged 441 and 306 per month, respectively. April 2025, however, was the first time that fires actually outnumbered false alarms since the heat wave we experienced in August 2022. And that trend continued through to August before dropping down in September. So that period where we were affected by the heat was quite significant. It wasn't just a short period, it was a significant 4-month, 5-month period. So figure 3 shows the breakdown of incidents by district, and not surprisingly, City of Nottingham experienced the most incidents at over 3,500, with Rushcliffe experiencing the least. So a breakdown of incidents by priority type can be seen in figure 4. So just as a reminder, our P1 incidents are the ones that we deem to be the most serious. These pose an immediate threat to human life or a risk of significant severe human injury. Our P incidents pose a serious hazard and a high risk to the environment, to society, to property or to heritage. And then our P3 incidents pose a lower risk to all those aspects. So when we've compared incidents by priority type for Q4 in 25-26 with those for Q4 in 24-25, there's been very little change, to be honest, in that period. A very slight increase in P1 incidents and slight decreases in P2 and P3 incidents. What figure 4 does clearly show is our P3 incidents, thankfully, significantly outweigh our P1 and P2 incidents. Now, a key CRMP target is that all of the emergency incidents are attended on average within 8 minutes from the first fire appliance being mobilised. Now, during Q4, the average attendance times was 7 minutes 50 seconds, so we were far better than the target we set, and we were actually just slightly better than the same period last year. However, unfortunately, that strong performance in Q4 wasn't enough to reduce the overall average for 25-26 below the target, and we finished the year with an average of 8 minutes and 7 seconds, which I know we've explained in previous committees around. That was really driven by all those incidents we faced in quarter one and quarter two. We saw appliances travelling far greater distances out of their normal turnout areas than they typically would. So the figure came down significantly over the year, but was still, unfortunately, just outside where we wanted it to be. So moving on to 2.9, in quarter four, on-call station availability averaged 85.5%. This was the first quarter since we introduced our dual employment policy in January 24, where we've achieved our 85% target. Now, we knew, and we've spoken previously around that dual employment policy being absolutely critical in terms of the health and welfare of our crews, but we knew it was going to put a little bit of a dent in our availability. So we've worked really hard to try to manage other means to get that availability up, and as I say, we're very, very proud that this is the first quarter where we've achieved that. Now, our annual figure for 25-26 availability was 83.3%, so albeit slightly under where we want it to be, it was still significantly higher than the national average, which is approximately 66%, and it still rates us as one of the best services in the country for on-call availability. Now, what I have shown in figure 6 is a breakdown of availability per station, and again in quarter four this was really positive. So 15 out of our 16 on-call sections provided individual availability above that national average of 66%. We had stations at Hucknall and Warsop which were both available for 99.5% of the time, which is always a really significant achievement. To be so close to 100% availability is absolutely credit to those sections, and a very significant achievement. Now, only Southwell, with availability of 52%, fell below that national average, and we've spoken previously about the challenges we have to recruit to Southwell. So to provide a longer-term overview, figure 7 shows the on-call station availability per completed quarter over the last 5 years. So that graphically shows how quarter 4 was really successful, and it also shows how that quarter 1 in 24-25 saw that sort of drop off as we introduced that dual employment policy. So at 2.12, whole time appliances, obviously availability is also key for us. So whole time appliances can become unavailable due to mechanical faults, servicing, insufficient crewing levels, replenishment of contaminated PPE, out-of-county training, or for crew welfare. On occasions, we take an appliance off the run so that the crews can concentrate on other activities such as in-county training or prevention and protection activities, but we don't class them as being off the run, because if we desperately need them, if something happened and we had to recall them, we can do it at the drop of the hat. Now, collectively, whole-time appliances have been available for 99.5% of the time in quarter 4. This includes 6 occasions where we took an appliance off the run under our degradation policy to allow staff to crew appliances at other stations. Throughout 25-26, whole-time appliances have been available for 98.3% of the time. So we're very, very proud of those availability figures, are really strong. Now, the target for availability of special appliances, so these are our aerial ladder platforms, specialist rescue units, the command support unit and environmental protection unit, which are crewed by whole-time crews. Our target is 95% availability. So in quarter 4, these assets were available for 97.6% of the time, and throughout the year they've been available for 96.3% of the time, so above where we would expect them to be. So a key part of our service's ongoing commitment is to ensure resources are mobilised for emergencies effectively and in a timely manner. So as part of our agreement with Derbyshire Fire and Rescue Service and the ongoing monitoring of our joint control, we look at 3 metrics to ensure and assure both you and ourselves that that is happening. So the first metric relates to how quickly the calls are answered. Our metric is to answer 96% of the calls within 7 seconds. Now in quarter 4, we've just slightly dropped below this, and we're at 95.9% of the time we answer calls within 7 seconds. The second metric we look at is around call handling times for P1 and P2 incidents, so the time it takes to process the call, to speak to the person on the other end of the line and mobilise the appliances. Now the target we have is 86 seconds for that, and in quarter 4 We actually achieved 60 seconds. We are well below that target. The figure 9 shows that we are consistently well below that target over the last couple of years. And then the final target that we look at is around the availability of the mobilisation system. Now, the system is classed as being unavailable for reasons including the loss of officer pager alerting, the loss of mapping, or an inability to connect to the Wi-Fi. What it doesn't necessarily mean is that we've lost the ability to mobilise appliances. It's not the case. It's often much smaller reasons than that we class it as being unavailable. It doesn't mean that we can't mobilise our assets to where they need to be. So the target for the mobilisation system availability is 99%. Figure 10 shows performance over the last 8 completed quarters, and in quarter 4 the system was available for 99.4% of the time, so where we would like it to be. However, we're not complacent with that in time, and a lot of work goes in with our existing supplier to ensure that that standards are maintained. Thank you.
Okay. So, do we want to take any
questions on?
Any points or questions on this first part of the report, Jim?
Yeah, just a general one. When you set these targets, I mean, you do amazingly well. So the only place you can go really is down. Or are these targets going to adjust because you're successful? Do you then upgrade?
Absolutely, yeah. We benchmark a lot of our targets against national averages, but absolutely, we look at them every year, and a significant one here that we are adjusting this year is the one for control around the call handling times, because we've met that target or exceeded that target so consistently over the last 2 years. We are lowering the target from next year, and it's dropping down quite significantly, just to ensure that we don't rest on our laurels and are complacent in any way.
Fast, though, isn't it?
Keep
8
improving.
seconds.
Yeah, but we're absolutely.
Thank you.
And Samina.
Hi, thank you. Thank you for the report. It's really good. I just have a question, like on call. I mean, the South Valley is quite low, isn't it?
It is.
Is there any improvement since?
Yeah, we are working really hard in targeted areas. South will be in a key one around recruitment, and we do work really hard to try to understand the community in terms of almost our target market for recruitment in that area. And Southwell is one that we struggle with around the numbers of people who live within 5 minutes of the station, which is the criteria, who would perhaps want to become an on-call firefighter. So what we do a lot of we do a lot of effort still to recruit them. We've had some real successes over the last couple of recruitment rounds, which has been brilliant, but the numbers there are low, and we anticipate that they will be going forward.
But it's going to be improved, obviously. Hopefully it will be improving the next
Yes. So what we do a lot of is our on-call support team, who we have a team of 5 individuals who are whole-time firefighters, so they're full-time firefighters, who all have supervisory manager qualifications. They're all drivers, so we send them out to on-call sections when the availability drops, so that they can provide the additional personnel, the additional people to keep those appliances on the run. Now, Southwell is one of the key target stations for that team. They've worked really hard, particularly over the last year, to make sure that they are sending their resource to where we can provide the most availability, and Southwell is a keen focus of that team and will continue to be.
A lot. Oh, sorry.
I think Councillor.
Oh, sorry, Nick. I didn't see.
That's all right. Thank you. Yeah, it's great news in terms of the targets. The dual employment has kicked in. Everything else seems to be really good. Obviously, we're looking at areas where we can improve. The only thing I've got a question about really is on 2.2 when he talked about special service calls increasing. We've had a slight increase in false alarms, but it was to do with assisting EMAS, East Midlands Ambulance Service. What sort of assistance have we given them, and why has that gone up? Is that due to issues they've got, or?
No, but there's a couple of key things where a few years ago, I don't know the exact dates, but
Probably cracking back 4 or 5 years ago, wasn't it?
time flies, isn't it? But so a few years ago we went into agreement with EMAS that we would go and support them when they're particularly gaining entry to buildings. So if, for example, they have concerns around a vulnerable individual who may be in a house, we now mobilise an appliance to go and gain entry to that property on their behalf, which was a humanitarian service that we didn't previously do. We also have seen an increase in bariatric rescues over time, which is another means by how we are supporting EMAS to fulfil their statutory duties. So, yeah, it's...
I think prior to that time, it was a deliberate act. So the police used to get introduced to break in for the ambulance service.
Yeah.
But obviously, the stress that the police are under and the call volume that they had. So it was a bit around the time when they had the right person, right care approach that was taken nationally. So we entered into that here. And I think that is exactly what Andy says in terms of that increase is directly correlates to that work. But it does mean that we're able to support them and make sure that people who need the ambulance service have got it as quickly as possible.
Is there any worry that that's going to increase exponentially going forward? I'm thinking about in terms of stretching of our resources.
Yeah, we see it. I think at the moment, I mean, my assessment was it's very manageable. It creates a larger proportion of our incidents, but we are seeing reductions in other areas in terms of the incidents had. This year is a bit of an anomaly with the hot weather, which is foreseeable to increase. We have to keep an eye on it. But it definitely adds a valuable resource to communities, I think, as well at the same time. So.
Not much hot weather now, is there?
Not today, no.
I was hoping
We've had
to be 22.
Give it time. We'll soon be moaning again. Jodie?
Yes, the hot weather incidents, a lot of them I assume are arson, grass fires, things like that. Is that what that would be?
Potentially. It's often quite hard for us to determine if it was accidental, if it was arson because of the nature of the incident. But potentially, yes.
Yeah, yeah.
I think a lot of them are put down to so like discarded smoking materials, discarded waste, sort of accidental, but definitely preventable. I think a lot of them, the fires over the summer that we saw, obviously some of them are deliberate. But yeah, a lot of them are preventable fires, if that
I
makes
guess
sense.
a lot are like disposable barbecues and things like that.
Those sorts of things, yeah.
Do you know if a lot of these then follow up with a prosecution?
Not really. I mean,
From
Tom's
a
team
fire
could be the
investigation,
fire
so obviously one of
investigation
my
team.
teams is the fire investigation team. We work really hard to train all of our response supervision managers in terms of that the level 1, the tier 1 fire investigation. So they have that wherewithal at their disposal to identify the cause of fire and understand why it progressed as it did. The investigations we do, though, are a balance of resource, working with our police colleagues from the crime scene investigation and MSU, and unless it is a catastrophic sort of field fire, grass fire, those sort of hot weathery, more related incidents, there are other incidents that are higher priority than that. And again, the gathering evidence is very, very difficult and those sorts of, so the prospect of a conviction is very, very low. So the one, I think they, when we talk about some of our regional colleagues and some of the wildfires they have in Derbyshire, for example, they tend to get a bit more traction because there's perhaps some more evidence and a much greater impact across the community. So we investigate the cause of every fire we go to. We train our people to do it. There's always a balance of resources and that balance of time versus effort. When we have, we have to balance that with our colleagues in MSU as well.
And one further question, Chair, if I may. 2.19, sorry, just for my understanding. So the target for mobilisation system is 99%. And you mentioned that actually that's the mobilisation system remains available. Is it 100% available or?
No, don't get me wrong. There will be times when perhaps it isn't, and we have resilience and continuity systems in place to ensure that we can carry on mobilising appliances, but it is few and far between. Right. And I just am conscious about, we talk around a metric around mobilising system availability, which sounds catastrophic if we were to say it isn't available 100% of the time, but there's so many little nuances of that we class it as being unavailable, but actually, for example, the issue around officers' pages. If officers' pages aren't working, officers receive a phone call when they get mobilised. So the officers will still get mobilised, but that slight element of the system isn't working properly.
Right.
So there are times when the system does fail, but we have backup systems in place to ensure that we can still get appliances out.
And when it's unavailable, is it typically because of planned maintenance? Or is it an actual fault in a wide?
It can be both. It can be both, but it's very few and far between them when that happens.
All right, lovely. Thank you.
Okay. A lot of information as ever in here, very detailed, and it's good as well. And I have to smile to it sometimes when I see some of the figures, and we're kicking ourselves at being about 0.1% under a target, and whatever happened to rounding, you know.
True. We always round up, depending.
It just likes to be completely honest and transparent.
But as you say, without being complacent, there is a lot of good news in this report, and especially the 66% of the our comparison now, 99%, no, 85%, isn't it? 85% against the national average of 66% for the on-call. That's
Impressive.
it's good. It is brilliant, actually. It's really good. So across the board, it's a really good report, this, and fascinating to see how it sometimes mirrors previous years. When you look at the graph here on figure 1, although the incidents are higher, the
peaks and troughs.
The peaks and troughs are almost identical, aren't they? So it gets a familiar pattern going. So no, a lot of good work going on here, which is we do recognise. So it needs to be reported. So shall we move on to community safety now then? So Tom,
Thanks, Chair. So as always, I'm just going to pull out the highlights on this report. So if I miss a point that you want me to cover, please let me know. So I will start at the beginning though. So the service completed 3,722 safe and well visits between the 1st of January and the 31st of March in quarter 4. And that has enabled us to surpass our CRMP target of 16,000 safe and well visits for the year. So a fantastic achievement across the entire organisation, and it's indicative of the hard work that goes into meeting those targets. As a comparison nationally for the year 25-26, NFRS undertook 13.9 safe and well visits per 1,000 population compared to the English average of 10 visits per 1,000 population. And this is an increase from our performance in 24-25 of 12.9 visits per 1,000. So again, an increase there. Moving down onto 2.25, safeguarding remains a key responsibility within the team. We undertake necessary training to maintain improvements in this area, and we've delivered these through inclusion in the operational assurance bulletin and a training package being designed for response crews. So in quarter 4, where the outcome is known, 100% of adult referrals made by the service have been accepted as meeting the threshold for safeguarding, with 60% of child referrals meeting that same threshold. And in 25-26, 77% of adult and 85% of child safeguarding referrals met the required standard for submission, which surpasses our target of 60%. Obviously that target would seem to be a little bit lower, but we deliberately set it there because we want people to err on the side of caution. We want them to submit something for safeguarding that might not be if they're a little bit on the fence with it. So it gives that sort of ability to submit those referrals. Our County Youth Justice Service referrals for young people, I know we've spoken about this at previous committees, for young people who are taken to court for relevant driving offences and motor vehicles. They're completely embedded as business as usual within the team. And in 25-26, 100% of those referred individuals were seen within the 28-day target, so helping to avoid making them first-time entrants into the criminal justice system. At 2.27, on page 16 and 17, as normal, I've included just a sort of summary of all the activities the team has done, which I won't go through unless you want me to pull out one bit. I am going to pull out one bullet point, though, on the middle of that list. We have spoken quite a lot about lithium-ion battery safety at this committee. So we ran a campaign that saw community events in the city and county at Clifton, Bulwell, Sneinton and Hyson Green. We worked with multiple businesses, such as retailers who supported with health check events, and gig economy users, so sort of food suppliers, who took leaflets, and we distributed leaflets and displayed posters at both universities. And you can see some of the metrics in terms of the numbers of people we engaged with there. We did 300 students, 100 individuals in the community, 200 individuals at bike shops and repair settings, 10 separate businesses, and we got 20,000 views on our social media for that, which I think was a really great campaign run by the team to highlight the dangers and the safety measures to take when using lithium-ion batteries. At 2.28, NOTSFI's befriending work builds on the relationships that are built by crews with our diverse local community groups and enables the service to reach more people for safe and well visit referrals, promote key safety messages through trusted local voices, and also to deliver our ongoing, sort of always-on positive action to diversify applications into operational and enabling service roles. So in quarter 4, response crews have recorded 41 engagements as part of their befriending work, with 151 engagements in 25-26. Now this is below the target of 248 engagements we set, so we'll have a focus on that area in 26-27 to bring it up to that target. 2.29, fire investigations are delivered, managed and coordinated as part of the community safety engagement team, working closely with the police crime scene investigation team. So in 25-26, 72% of weekday Tier 2 investigations were undertaken by our core fire investigation team against our target of 75%, and 98.5% of our forensic reports were submitted to police against the 100% target within that 48-hour timescale. And importantly, 98% of our Tier 2 fire investigations were undertaken by our NFRS staff, surpassing our 90% target. So that's including our flexi-duty officers who work on an on-call basis. So a strong performance from the team, and the core fire investigation team has also had some absence in there through maternity as well. So to almost achieve their target, they've worked exceptionally hard, and I'm really proud of their work there. And just to bring the community safety engagement piece to a close at 2.30, obviously after more serious incidents where we need to submit a report for His Majesty's Coroner, 100% of these reports were delivered in the timescales required by the Coroner's Office. So, Chair, would you like me to stop there?
Yes, any questions on the community safety and engagement? Or any points to highlight?
Observation.
Yes, yeah.
Blanket 70% failure rate.
Yes, we get that. So this is one of our, we always run electric blanket campaigns, sort of
Yeah.
an amnesty for electric blankets. As with anything electrical or anything produced, they do have a lifespan. The way they are stored, the way they are used, the sort of whether they are kept dry affects their longevity. And that's exactly why we run that campaign, because people bring them because obviously they feel it's prudent, and when we offer that free service and we can test them and remove from circulation the ones that would appear to have a fault.
Do you invite people to bring them along, or
Yes.
is this part of your safety and wellness?
No, we invite people, we run events and we invite people to bring them along.
One thing I was to say that the success of those events recently has been around partnership working, particularly with local authorities, but also trading standards and work with those. So we're really keen to do more of those in the future, but it very much relies on that sort of partnership working at local level. So any support we can get from local authorities in terms of more opportunities to do those would be really welcome, because they do cost and there is a challenge around hosting those. But the data speaks for itself. It's huge amounts of,
Mainly elderly, I assume.
our target audience, the demographic that see the challenges in terms of our Charlie profile, the data speaks for itself. There's a real challenge there in making sure people are safe.
And Samina?
Yeah, I was going to say that, like, when doing the engagement, how do you approach the community? Because there's certain, like, so many events going on for, like, BME communities where, like, more than 1,000 people attended. So why don't we have, like, some kind of stall or something there where people can bring their things, so we could just, like, target more different audience as well?
Yeah, so we work very
I mean, if
hard.
you could just, like, send me information or something, then, you know, I could just, like, send, Woollerton Hall. I think we have, like, at least 5-6 events there in 1 year, where it's, like, more than 1,000 people attend. So maybe why don't we just target those places and have...
That's a good idea. So we do try and target those, but obviously we have a limited reach within the team, and we only have a finite amount of capacity. So very happy to work with you in terms of helping that target, and any advice you can give us, we absolutely.
Because I mean, those communities are hard to read as well, isn't it? So that would be like really killing two birds with one stone. So
Thank you.
Okay. Any more points on that section? On the befriending service, we don't like to talk about not quite meeting targets, but we have to be realistic. You mentioned that, well, it says in the report as well, that we've got a plan in place.
Yes.
So how are we going to do? Are we just going to sort of monitor that perhaps as the next meetings go
Certainly.
on?
So we are befriending is a fantastic initiative that it's us being proactive and getting out into those sort of yet to reach groups that we've just sort of spoken about. Within my team, we own that. The delivery is within the response crews, but we own that sort of coordination, and we want to help. Because crews are very busy. Yeah. We want to help them with the data and the intelligence to say, look, go here. These are groups that you might want to engage with. Crews, like I say, delivering 16,000 safe and well visits, 1,700 business safety checks, plus their very busy summers. There are always factors, and I'm not making excuses, but there are.
But
there are only a certain amount.
But it's good for us to be reminded of just how many you do.
Yeah.
And it also gives reassurance to the public
100%,
as well.
but we want to get out into groups, and again, I think the friending is a key initiative around not only that delivering our safety message in the community, but that positive action work as well, because there are people that we want to talk to, and there are individuals that we know would have a great career in the fire service, not just operational, but like I said, in those enabling service roles that perhaps they don't know about. So it's a real key thing that we want to improve, and I think my team needs to just give a tiny bit more support into response to say, I need you to go here.
Okay, that's good. Good work. So we'll move on to fire protection.
Thank you, Chair. So starting at 2.31, the completion of 1,500 fire safety audits in 25-26 was one of our key CRMP commitments. Within 25-26, the service has completed 1,104 fire safety audits, which has achieved the revised commitment to undertake 1,100 audits, which was previously approved by members at this meeting. So just to give an indication of that.
Another target beat.
Another target met, albeit a revised one, but I think it was, we set ambitious targets, but fire protection has seen such a growth in work that 1,500 was unachievable. I think, I'm pleased we did the right thing. I'm pleased that you supported us in revising that target, so thank you. But again, the team has worked exceptionally hard to deliver that number of fire safety audits, and I'm really, really proud of the work to get there. Again, a small summary at 2.32 in terms of the other work the team have completed within quarter 4. And again, it shows you just the sheer variety of work that's undertaken around post-fire inspections, with 100% of qualifying incidents being inspected, and 97% of those within our 48-hour target. So within 2 days, we'll get out and see that incident. Follow-ups to complaints, 100% of which were responded to within the 40-hour target. 10 enforcement notices, 6 prohibition notices. And again, we've spoken a lot at this committee around the work that goes into, an enforcement notice, or certainly a prohibition is not just one notice issued, it's multiple visits, it's follow-ups with the individual, it's liaison with different agencies, it's time at scene. That is quite a significant undertaking. But again, all with the intention of keeping the community safe and also working with the business owner at all times. So that is always our last resort. We will always engage first. 189 building regulation consultations, 99% of which were responded to within the target of 15 working days. 94 licensing consultations and 39 other consultations with agencies such as Ofsted and the Care Quality Commission. So a significant amount of work. 2.33, the completion of 1,650 business safety checks in 25-26 was one of our CRMP commitments, and in that year we have completed 1,739 business safety checks, which comfortably surpassing the target. And again, that is the work of response crews going out, utilising their training to get into businesses and look at fire safety. But they are referring work back, as again I've spoken about in previous committees, back into fire protection for those then enforcements and those prohibitions. And it's been an absolutely brilliant piece of work across the sort of service delivery and in keeping those communities safe, because those are the premises that we wouldn't have gone into as a fire protection team, because they were deemed, low risk from our risk-based inspection programme. So 2.34, as part of that work, our fire safety inspectors continue to work closely with response supervisory managers through shadowing visits as part of the BSc, so the Business Safety Check qualification. And in quarter 4, we now have 97.8% of whole-time watchers who have at least one supervisory manager qualified to undertake unsupervised business safety checks. So I think Andy will tell me if I'm right, it's literally one watch.
It is one watch.
We don't have someone, and that, we have people in training. So they are very close. So hopefully we will be, and again, there's always people leaving and moving and being promoted, but the amount of people that we're putting through and the fact that we front-loaded it with our crew managers and our watch managers now means that obviously when a crew manager gets promoted, they already have the qualification. So we've really worked hard to catch up to that whole cohort of individuals. I'll just move on to 2.36, so to talk about false alarms. So during 25-26, we've responded to 5,296 false alarms, which is that 2% increase on the previous year. I think I rounded down to 2. I think you put 2.4 in your bit. So yeah, I rounded down to 2.
Problem around.
So, and obviously, as always, they're broken down into 3 areas. So they're false alarm malicious, which I know you understand the definition of. So in 25-26, we responded to 0.1 malicious false alarms per 1,000 population, which is literally the national average. But I have put I know you were interested in malicious alarms or malicious calls last time. So in total for you, it's 133, which was 46 fewer than last year. So the fact they were going down is good news. Obviously, false alarm good intents, which are made in good faith, and then our false alarm apparatus calls, which are those calls initiated by a fire alarm operating, or where an alarm operates and a person then routinely calls the fire and rescue service as part of a standing arrangement with no judgment required, and then we don't have any action to take when we get there. So some of these are classified as unwanted fire signals, and in 25-26 we responded to 3.3 per 1,000 population compared to the English national average of 4.3. So we are below the average. There still is a lot. Again, we can't get away from the fact that the built environment is increasing in size. Obviously, modern building regs require alarms to be installed for very good reason, and sometimes these alarms are going to go off because they do their job.
Yeah.
So we are always looking at ways of reducing that, and that we have a strategy across our entire CRMP at looking at how we can reduce those, always with the balance of public safety in mind, because they are alarms, they are going off for a reason. So obviously some will be false alarms, some
The burnt toast syndrome.
but they're doing what they're designed to do.
Yes.
How's the Queen's Med doing? Has it come down any?
No, well, so Queen's Medical Centre is always one of our top attended sites, and again, the risk that premises presents in terms of if there was a fire, the community impact were it to become a larger fire, is why we send resources there every time. Obviously, it's a significant risk, lots of stuff, lots of things that would burn well at Queen's Medical Centre, and lots of people who are very unwell and unable to evacuate without significant mental help. So it is there. We have a dedicated team that work with the site to reduce false alarms, to look at the design and use and testing of those alarm systems. But we do attend hospitals a lot.
Sorry, Chair, I jumped in, I didn't mean to. How are they doing? I know you're doing well for them, but how are they doing?
So they have dedicated fire safety teams. They obviously, as we all know, operate under a lot of pressure financially and in their resources and in the demand placed upon them. So they are always willing to work with us, and we have an effective partnership. I would say there, the individuals in our team, in my team in fire protection, understand the site very well. We train them around the nuances of fire safety and sort of hospital accommodation. But the site, it's in the site's interest to not have these alarms as well, and they work really, really hard to reduce them. And they, however, when an alarm goes off, again, it's about that early call and that early awareness of an incident. If we can get there and at the time, then obviously that prevents worsening. It's always a balance.
Yeah, I remember talking about it on one previous committees. The reason I'm asking, I've had 2 visits there in the last month, one for the eyes and one for the stomach. Perfectly normal visits, and on both of them, the fire alarm went off. Some people came outside, and hundreds stayed inside, just walking around doing their thing, and I'm thinking, should I be out? Should I be in?
Yes, so that's a very good point, Councillor. Obviously, Communittee won't have a. If an alarm goes off, not everyone will have to evacuate. They will have very strict zoning areas where, if you're in Zone X, you evacuate if the alarm goes off there. But they have lots and lots of fire protection between Zone X and Zone A. So it won't be an alarm goes off and everyone has to evacuate. It will be certain areas.
Yeah, depends where you are.
Yeah, so it does depend where you are. And again, they have they have fire marshals on site and they have a fire protection team there who would That's a turnout, not a fire alarm.
Hang on,
That was very good 2 minutes ago.
So,
We planned that well.
Although in the yard, come on.
All for you, Jim, every time you turn up anyway.
They set that one up, look, they're ready to go.
Every time we come in here.
so, so obviously they have well-trained teams and they would supervise that evacuation
But as,
as
a member of the
appropriate
public,
to the,
it was
training.
really confusing to me, because first thing I did was right out, and I stood there, and there was a few guys having vapes and things, and I thought, but nobody else is coming out. They're in this shop and everything. For me, I
Yeah.
just thought, this is crazy.
I can feed that back into the team around to raise with the QMC.
So they've got a tannoy system, I believe.
Yes,
haven't
they do.
they? Yeah, that would help.
Yeah.
Okay, anyway, sorry.
Yeah, no, I
It
think,
was on Mark, though.
no, it's okay. I think that the point's been recognised and
Yeah, great.
they'll just double check with the QMC to ensure all their systems are in order. Yeah, I think we will do that. So, yeah.
Okay, thank you, Chair. So 2.37, so within quarter four, we responded to 740 unwanted fire signals. And again, we've just discussed this, 117 of these were at hospitals and 552 at residential premises. We still take action following these unwanted fire signals. So based on the number of calls, we will intervene, send letters, and then we will engage our business support team, which is a specialist team within fire protection, to go and speak to the premises owner as appropriate. Moving on to the joint audit inspection team at 2.41. So in 25-26, the JATE has done 35 inspections and 23 follow-up inspections across the year, and there are now 118 premises on the JATE audit list, which is a reduction in that number. The last committee report was about 124. And obviously we prioritise the JATE and are working with the City Council to ensure that every premise on that audit list are inspected in line with our 2-year programme, which aligns with the high-risk premises timescale in our risk-based inspection programme. In terms of the building safety regulator at 2.45, in 25-26, a summary of the work we've completed there, which has represented about 380 hours of billable work within the period contractors report. That is fire protection update. Do you have any questions before I hand back over to Andy for the marauding terrorist attack update?
Right. So, Jim, another point on fire protection.
Yeah, sorry, just got to jump back slightly. The QMC grabbed me because I was there.
Okay.
World Cup and HMOs.
Certainly, Council. So World Cup, we've got a planned campaign of activity across the World Cup. So focusing on licensed premises. So we are attending a lot of licensed premises to engage with the premise themselves, plus the people that are going to be there. In terms of, we've identified areas across the county where we're going to attend. Again, that's with a small nod to the tragic incident in Switzerland around the fire. It was in Switzerland. Yeah. In terms of just having an eye on those licensed premises and certainly the during use aspect of them. So World Cup, we're using it. We've got a social media campaign that will run concurrently with that, and that was kicked off. Excuse the pun. Last week at Forest, we had members of the fire protection team and the prevention team at Notts Forest kicking off that campaign in front of the screen like a press conference. It was really a great bit of work from comms. And your other point, sorry, was around
HMOs.
Yeah, so that they are inspected by the City Council. We're ready to respond to them in terms of incidents, but they are managed by they are inspected by the City Council.
Not inspected, but I was thinking about the recent upsurge that we're getting and the problems that we're getting. I mean, is there a plan B for something kicking off to that scale?
We have a memorandum of understanding with the local authority, so that they come under housing regulations, so they're quite well regulated. Obviously, they have to be, the legitimate ones have to be registered and certified by local authority. Work really closely, Tom's team, in terms of that work, Andy's team in terms of if we go to an incident, the follow-up after that, making sure we make the right referrals. I suppose it's the unlicensed and illegitimate premises where we have the issues. But we have a memorandum of understanding in place with all local authorities, how we'll address those, how we make sure those referrals go back to the right team and keep... It'll be a constant piece of work around doing that. However, the selective licensing elements also help with that. We know it's now been rolled out in Mansfield as well, so different areas. But it is a continuing piece of work to make sure people are kept safe.
So, thank you.
And Nick?
Yeah, no, it's based on Jim's point there. We've had problems in the city, obviously, with this, with HMOs, and we've expanded our selective licensing pretty extensively, and a lot of it does involve safety checks and fires, because we've got, as you can imagine, a lot of abuse of it, and people stacked up in unsuitable premises, etc. And it's not like a tick box. You know, I've seen one where they're in there for about 35, 40 minutes checking absolutely everything, electrics, you know, whether you've got the stuff on, but obviously, as you can imagine, it's a large task, so we're putting more resources into it, but we've got more residential, you know, situations that aren't, you know, acceptable, and also obviously ones that, you know, haven't registered as HMOs, that, you know, the Lord knows what's going on, etc. But we're doing our best with that, but we are expanding it, so that is at least something, and obviously working with the fire in terms of Jate as well.
One of the things we've done, Council, particularly in relation to that, is working with the inspectors around the dangers of lithium-ion batteries, and particularly the e-bikes and the work that's been done there. So we're sharing the information because, again, some of the incidents we've seen recently in the city, in HMOs, where people are then charging e-bikes in common areas, compromises a means of escape, and the challenges around that. So I would say we've got a really good working relationship with the inspectorate team. From the relative councils, but it's definitely a continuing and growing area to keep an eye on.
And so every time I come here, I realise a new threat. See, I've been in licensed premises for the World Cup as well, and you never think of it as a fire threat, do you? No. You're more concerned with they're going to lose on penalties. You're thinking, I suppose. I suppose it is.
Yeah, but it's a good point though, because exciting when people are worked up and excited in a very confined space, and we've seen what's happened. Well, in this country, but also New Year in Switzerland with that issue there with all those people there. So, so important that we work with premises and property owners to minimise the risk.
And a lot of the games are in late in the evening
Well,
as well, so I guess that adds to
yeah.
that. You know, people's already had a few by then.
No, it's absolutely.
I mean, the concern now I was thinking is be drinking in the morning, so people
Drinking
get
in-
over the limit, don't they? Get a few drinks and then
exactly.
you know, get in a van in the morning. Something around that.
Good points. And also, just to highlight as well, a positive, the unwanted fire signals. They're a challenge, but there's been fewer of them. It's moving in the right way.
Yeah.
4% reduction. So let's hope that continues as well. And again, a lot of that is down to the work that you and your colleagues do in working with premises owners to ensure the systems are
Absolutely.
suitable.
I think I would hesitate. Correlation is not causation. I would hesitate to claim all responsibility for that. We work really hard with it. I'm happy they're down, and we will continue the work, but I won't get cocky.
Good. Right. Okay. So if there's no more questions on that section, we'll go on to the marauding terrorist attack specialist response. And that's it. Well, Andy, if you
Lovely.
talk
Thank
us through
you.
this one, please.
Thank you. So just to conclude the performance report this time, we've included this quite short update just to hopefully give you some assurance around one of our key specialist assets. So, marauding terrorist attack. We have a key specialism around protecting our communities from that. Now, it's been subjected to a assurance assessment, which is what this details. So we've just completed the three-year national assurance cycle for marauding terrorist attack. The cycle comprised of a self-assessment in 23-24, a national resilient assurance team, which we always refer to as NRAT assessment in 24-25, and an NRAT-led physical exercise in 25-26. So we've just concluded this cycle. For your assurance, really, across the cycle, the services demonstrate consistently high standards of preparedness, operational effectiveness, and interagency coordination. So back in year one, in that 23-24 self-assessment, we identified 2 areas for improvement. These were both addressed and closed very promptly. In year 2, the NRAT assessment reported no areas for improvement and highlighted one area of notable practice, which was really what we do in terms of our response, in that we will send one of our national liaison officers into police force control. Now, this was an innovative approach, which was highly praised, and it's subsequently been adopted across all UK fire and rescue services and also ambulance services as well. So it provides really good evidence of how, as a service, we are influencing nationally. you know, we are in a good place and sector leading in a number of areas. Then this year, so the Year 3 NRAT-led physical exercise, it took place in January this year, and the report we got back reported full compliance across all assessed areas. Key strengths being our effective mobilisation, strong ability around multi-agency communication, clear command structures, safe and well-managed deployment, appropriate use of specialist equipment, and robust welfare and debriefing arrangements being in place. So taken together, the outcomes of the 3-year cycle demonstrate a highly mature and reliable capability within Nottinghamshire, and the MRAT team have consistently been complementary throughout the cycle, reaffirming that both the specialist team and also our frontline crews maintain a fully compliant, professional, operationally ready resource, which is capable of supporting not only our community but also the wider region. So we just wanted to include this. It is quite a short update. Obviously, there's some sensitivities around detail when it comes to this team. But just for your assurance, and community assurance, we're in a very good place when it comes to this.
Good. Yes, Jim.
Sorry. Yeah, we're right not to discuss most of this, you know,
Yeah.
on air. I'm aware of that, and I sent a paper to the chief. I'm sure he mentioned it. My main thing then for this meeting, interoperability. That is where, if we look at the last 3 big inquiries, including the Callocane and the likes of that, all the systems were in there, but they all failed. So we're getting good feedback from these, and absolutely no doubts that, you know, they're justified. But interoperability is a biggie. The police, the fire, the other services.
It absolutely is. And I think particularly in areas that are so significant as this. And we undertake very robust exercising programs. I mean, a lot of that feedback has come back from the assessors seeing how we work with our multi-agency colleagues. We are content that we are pretty good in this area. We adopted the JESSA principles very early. All of our staff have been very well trained in this, and our very specialist staff, they're exercising this regularly. They are working with the police, with EMAS, with other agencies, just to make sure we're on point.
I think
Martin's Law. Oh, sorry.
So one of the other things, the local resilience forum that we worked through, we've made quite a lot of improvements on the back of all of the major incidents at Manchester Arena, the Southport riots, and then most recently the Nottingham attacks. And I think the local resilience forum, because I totally agree with Andy, that operational element we're really, really strong. I think one of the common areas across a wider reports is around the multi-agency sort of strategic leadership. We've made a lot of progress in that area now. We now, the fire service employs a team which helps coordinate that as part of the local resilience forum. And I would say we've made vast improvements in that area as well. So hopefully we've aligned the strategic leadership and the practical tactical leadership now, which works quite well. In terms of Martin's Law, we're very close to that. Obviously, majority of the recommendations around that and the implications are for large arenas, sports facilities, places like that. But again, our fire protection team are well involved, but then also from our LRF work in terms of Martin's Law, we are well across that. I've actually got a briefing next Tuesday with central government around the updates on Martin's Law and requirements around how we can support these places of gatherings to make sure that they're safe.
Well, we're pushing from the inside, as you probably gather. But I just wondered, from your feedback, do you feel you're getting maximum support from county?
Yeah, I think we're well engaged with safety
Probably won't
advisory
say no
groups.
on camera, but I mean, seriously.
We're very, very honest. No, we're well engaged with safety advisory groups, and I think that is our main method into supporting these places of where people are coming together that meet the criteria for Martin's Law requirements. I think we work well with that. We're continually trying to improve it. There is some guidance expected out soon around the linking up between LRFs and safety advisory groups. So we'll continue to work on that and make sure we meet those recommendations as well. But I would say we're confident that it works well. We're well prepared. We've got good relationships with people. We maintain those. I think it works well.
Is there anything we can do? Or anything more you'd like?
No, I think that scrutiny, that understanding of the changes in legislation, I think is really useful. That scrutiny around where we're looking, and obviously that link into local authorities. We know how much pressure every public sector body is under in terms of resources and planning, and I think it's just making sure that we support that Yeah, I'm happy to pick up outside the meeting and look at.
It's fantastic what you're doing. Be safe. Thank you.
Jim and Nick.
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult here, isn't it? You don't want to cause alarm, but I mean, this is something you become more aware of. When I was thinking, I was at York Christmas markets, one of the things I noticed was you have the tall bollards, and you think this is to stop some lunatic driving a vehicle in. And it's the same thing I was watching Notts County, Wembley, my son, I think there's a lot of police. And then you look at it and think, well, looking at the way, they're not expecting crowd trouble here, but they are expecting, again, expecting some lunatic driving a van into loads of lads and dads or whatever. So it's awful. And then you think to yourself, well, obviously there's stuff in Belfast at the moment, and and Lord knows the pressure beyond our colleagues in the fire authority there and the police, that how these incidents can kick off quickly and how we respond to them. There's a balance between how we're prepared and then reassuring the public that measures are in place other than the sea to stop this sort of thing, because it's increasingly the case, isn't it? I've got a friend who, he's a forest fan, he moans about the protections we've got on Trent Bridge because they are hideously ugly, but obviously they're there in case somebody drives into the group of supporters, which would be awful. But these things are now an everyday factor of life. If you start to notice them, aren't they? And people become, you don't alarm people, we want to make sure we've got things in place. Because by the very nature, these attacks can happen at any time, can't they? And they have.
Yeah, the overt and covert mitigations now that are in place are extensive across every part of public life. I think it involves now even the design and build of new facilities. It's absolutely incorporated into there. Our specialist teams do an awful lot of training, and I say it's not by chance we get these assurance reports where we're getting highly commended nationally, and some of our practices and then being used as best practice across the country. This is not something we take for granted, and sadly the world we live in, it's an ever increasing threat. So yeah, absolutely take it seriously.
And again, not saying we can't go into details, but the fact is that we're even discussing this and we have these policies in place should provide reassurance to the public and everyone in general that an awful lot of work is being done on this. And also, again, without being complacent, but the point in 2.48 about being recognised, the practice that we had here in Nottinghamshire about having a presence in a police control room if there is an incident is now being adopted nationally. Yeah. So I think that's a measure of the importance that it's all been taken. So no questions or comments on this report. So just for the record, we've got the recommendation that members scrutinise and draw assurance from the performance of the service delivery. So I think we're all happy with that.
Great,
yeah. So thank you, colleagues, for that. Well done, and again, pass on our recognition and appreciation to the teams and the crews.
Very well.
Yeah. Thank you. So we'll move on to residential personal emergency evacuation plans update. So is this Tom again? Yeah. Busy day for you.
Always.
But we know how you love these meetings. So,
Thank you, Chair. So I'll summarise the report as well. If you have any questions, please ask.
Yeah.
So the introduction of residential personal emergency evacuation plans, which I will shorten to RPEEPs from here, represented a significant development in fire safety policy for high-rise and high-risk residential buildings. So the regulations apply in England to all high-rise residential buildings that are at least 18 metres above ground level or have at least 7 storeys, and all residential buildings that are more than 11 metres above ground level have simultaneous evacuation strategies in place. So the legislation has built on lessons learned from national inquiries and reviews into major fires, most notably the 2017 Grenfell Tower fire, which highlighted systemic gaps in the evacuation arrangements for residents who may not have been able to self-evacuate. So historically, fire safety guidance has centred on stay-put strategies, particularly in purpose-built blocks of flats. However, this approach did not adequately account for individuals with mobility impairments, sensory impairments or other vulnerabilities who may have been unable to evacuate safely. Should a change to a stay-put strategy be implemented during an incident? So the RPEEPs framework introduces a formal requirement for responsible persons to identify those residents who may require assistance to evacuate, develop and maintain individualised evacuation plans, and ensure reasonable arrangements are in place to support safe evacuation in an emergency. So this report details the work we've undertaken within Nottinghamshire Fire and Rescue Service to ensure we're suitably prepared for the implications of the RPEEPs legislation across all of our service activities. So we have adopted, at 2.1, we've adopted a multi-layered implementation strategy combining external communication, internal training and stakeholder engagement to support the effective rollout of the new requirements. And I've summarised each of these in subsequent bullets. So 2.2, we've utilised our National Fire Chiefs Council communication materials to ensure consistency of messaging and at both local and national levels, and this included alignment of messaging between our teams, most notably between fire protection and the community safety engagement team. Alignment of that messaging with national expectations and terminology, and use of campaign assets to support awareness among residents and responsible persons. We've updated our public-facing website to provide clear and accessible information on RPEEPs, including guidance for responsible persons on their legal duties, information for residents explaining what RPEEPs are and what they can expect from one of these, and then signposting to further national guidance and support resources. We've undertaken a targeted social media communication campaign aimed at raising awareness of the new legislation, encouraging residents to engage with building managers regarding evacuation planning, and reinforcing key safety messages in an accessible, public-friendly format. So at 2.5, recognising the potential concerns associated with the introduction of these new evacuation requirements, we've developed plans for proactive resident engagement, so including community engagement events within high-rise and high-risk residential settings, partnership working with housing providers and local authorities to ensure clarity across partners on the responsibilities and enforcement strategies. At 2.6, we've utilised the Protection Uplift grant funding to recruit a fixed-term contract fire protection training officer. So I'm really proud of this sort of this development. So this has ensured we can move quickly and flexibly to develop, produce and deliver relevant training materials. So it's not just for RPEEPs this, but we have used this role to get right on the front foot with the delivery of RPEEPs training. So in the case of RPEEPs, we've developed an entirely new e-learning package from scratch to ensure all of our operational and our appropriate fire safety personnel are aware of the implications of new legislation. So the training covers the legislative background, the role of our operational crews in supporting RPEEPs related arrangements, so when they turn up at that incident, those first actions to take on arrival, key considerations during incidents involving residents with evacuation needs, and enforcement considerations and signposting for further information. And already that e-learning has been completed by 97% of the target audience within NFRS, so we're again very satisfied that we've got, this was when I wrote that report, so that figure will be higher. So in addition to this general training across the sort of cohort of individuals, our flexi duty officers have received more focused input at our command training days to ensure they have a deeper understanding of the enforcement context and expectations, and to give consistency in interpretation of the new requirements and expectations of operational incidents. We've also delivered further communication via our operational assurance bulletin, which has reinforced key messages and clarified those operational expectations. Again, trying to sort of get into people through multiple fronts to make sure the learning is reinforced. So at 2.9, we will continue to build on our implementation activity as further national guidance becomes available, and we'll review and implement NFCC enforcement guidance, and we'll do this within 26-27 to ensure that consistent and proportionate enforcement approach, provide clarity to our inspecting officers on expectations for compliance when they go out and audit premises, and align local enforcement activity with national frameworks. And this will likely include updates to policies, procedures and competency requirements. So, as always, and I'm always keen to reinforce this to you as councillors. Alongside enforcement, we will always maintain a supportive and advisory approach towards responsible persons. So, including that continued engagement with building owners and managing agents, the provision of guidance and clarification as the sector adapts, and encouraging early adoption of best practice beyond minimum compliance. So, we always start with that advisory and engagement approach in line with the regulators code, obviously taking appropriate action depending on how much engagement we get and what we are seeing at the time. We will then undertake further work to continue resident engagement, including expanding our resident engagement programmes, gathering feedback to inform future improvements and ensuring vulnerable residents remain central to our implementation work. And lastly, we're also exploring technological solutions to support the effective implementation of RPEEPs to streamline collection, storage and management of RPEEP information, improve the availability and accessibility of risk-critical information for our operational crews, and better inform our incident commanders, which supports risk-based and timely decision-making during emergency incidents. So at the minute, our expectation for responsible people is that they store their information on their residents who need further assistance within their secure information boxes, which are the red boxes that you'll see on these sorts of buildings. In the future, we're exploring whether that's feasible to be done electronically, which would allow us to display that information on our mobile data terminals. However, there's a lot of barriers with that in terms of engagement with responsible people. The information is only as good as the last time it was updated. So at this point in time, to get this legislation enacted as quickly as possible, Nottinghamshire's expectation is the provision of that in our secure information boxes.
Okay. Any questions or comments on this? It's it's another one to learn, isn't it? So
More of an observation, really. I mean, all the details there. It sounds like it's a lot of work's gone into it. A very comprehensive plan, and I think robust, and I think the public can be assured that all available means are being used to deal with the RPeeps.
okay.
We have tried, and again, I suppose I'd like to put that is all in addition to the stuff that I've just spoken about.
Yeah.
That's just
When do you actually fight fires?
We also do that as well sometimes.
Well,
That's a lot.
you mentioned on 2.4 the social media connections, and you're targeting targeting specific people. How do you work out? How do we work out how that?
So
how to target?
luckily, I'm not allowed anywhere near that sort of thing. So our comms team undertake that for us. So they have the ability to push out social media advertising at specific demographics of people who we
so
think are
they-
more likely to live in these premises.
So they identify the demographics then.
Yeah,
And do it,
so-
yeah.
So my team ask, and then we have comms who swoop in and help us achieve that in a proper and effective way.
Okay, right. And because there's a greater awareness generally from Grenfell and the other incidents, do we ever get many property owners, landlords approaching us for advice, or is it, I would imagine, primarily us going to them? But I'm just wondering if there's much proactive contact from those people.
I think most responsible people are very, very professional and concerned with the safety of the people under their care.
Good.
Those individuals will always reach out to us. Again, that's part of the reason we've really front-loaded our website with that information. So the first place they will go, I imagine, is the website. That is an assumption we make, and all the information they could ever need is on that website.
Yeah.
So they will always reach out to us. This is and does remain absolutely their responsibility to implement under legislation. So as always, we are the enforcing authority for these things. It is the responsibility of the responsible person to undertake these person-centred evacuation plans, meet with residents, and decide what evacuation they may need in an emergency, and then provide that information to us in these secure information boxes. But we, for the benefit of the tape, we remain, we are here to consult and liaise, and we have lots of information on our website. So I'd please urge responsible people to visit our website where they can find out what they need to know.
And one way or another, we just need to keep reminding and spreading the word, don't we? Basically, yeah. What about comments from residents and members of the public? I mean, I had one the other day where someone was living in albeit a low-rise block. It's not a high-rise one, but they had got a concern. In the end, it was okay, but they got a concern about jammed doors. Are we getting many calls from the public who are living in these type of buildings
So
and sort of expressing their worries?
Yes, so if I can take you back to the Community Safety Performance Report. So that's our complaints. We have a complaints portal so people can raise complaints.
So that sort of
That is
falls
an
under the
option to them.
complaints.
Yes, that's an option
Right.
available to them. So
Okay.
that's, when the complaint is made, we've responded to 100% of those within our 2-day target. Obviously, that is the responsible person's duty. So again, I'd urge them to open that dialogue with their landlord or their point of contact, because those sorts of things are probably, in the first instance, that and I understand they probably have experienced frustration if they're talking to you about those things. But again, complaints we take very, very seriously. So we have a portal, we have an option for people to do that, and we will respond within 48 hours.
Indeed. And indeed you do, because only last Saturday, and Damien knows all about this, only last Saturday I had a member of the public contact me via another person saying they're worried about these communal entrance doors on the front of their two-storey block, but it's still a block at the end of the day. And I happened to send an email to Damien about it, and within 2 or 3 hours, someone had been out and visited this
Well,
lady.
if I may, Chair, I think that's indicative. We've worked very, very hard to introduce an out-of-hours fire protection provision.
Very
so we have
impressed.
that 24/7 cover for qualified people who can come and enforce if needed. Advise first, obviously, because that helps crews and it helps the community.
Yeah, no, and this particular case, on reflection, it was okay. I mean, they didn't identify any serious issue, but at the same time, it was a concern to the member of the public, and so we thought, well, let's report it, and boom, you were there. So well done. That's really good. So no more questions or comments on this one. So again, thank you for the report. So for the record, we have the recommendations that we scrutinise and draw assurance from the update, and we support the approach being taken to address new legislation. So I think we've covered that. All happy with that?
Yeah.
Okay. So right, that's the final item on the agenda. So again, another really interesting meeting. It's and thank you everyone for your questions and input as well. It's good, and thank you colleagues for your time and work. And we'll close the meeting at 11:10.